We're live! Yay! We
Huzzah.
are we are here. This is episode 1 of the Mr. Moonshine, what I'm calling vlogcast. I don't know if that term has been coined before or not. I
If
should
not, it
Google
should be.
it. But if it hasn't, I have just coined it vlogcast. Um, what in the name of God is happening here? Sorry. So, anyways, yes, we're doing a vlogcast. And what we're
Some
going to do.
top-notch wordsmithing there, sir.
Thank you. So what we're going to do with this particular vlogcast is just kind of talk about writing stuff. Both Stuart and I are writers, and we're both working on various projects of different lengths and media and what have you. So it's just a chance for us to sit down and talk and discuss what's going on. So I'm Jason. This is Stuart, my co-host. Say hi, Stuart.
Hello.
And so yeah, tonight what we're going to be talking about is a story idea that Stuart had that came off of a dream. So I'm gonna kick it over to Stuart. Take it away.
Well, I wouldn't call it a story idea. It's really mostly just a title who people in my dream were convinced that I had written. And they were actually pretty down on it and says, man, you really wrote a boring story there, Stuart. The Halls of Bagamnon, which we then have since started calling the Halls of Backgammon, Halls of Gargamel, Halls of Gorgonzola.
I couldn't remember.
And to the
I
best of our sleuthing abilities, this book does not exist. No idea where it came from. And we decided, hey, might as well make it exist and try to make it not boring.
That's
So,
that's the
we're
key
gonna
right there.
we're gonna do what we usually do when we brainstorm, which is just throw ideas at the wall till they stick, see what interests us, and go from there.
Okay. All right, cool. So in your dream, were there any specifics about like what the book was about? I mean, obviously it's the halls of.
It had an orange cover. That's
Okay.
about all I remember. So really, we can do whatever we want. It just has to have a hall.
Hall and backgammon, possibly Gorgonzola, probably Gargamel. So
Definitely Gargamel.
I'm gonna get Facebook taken down because it keeps making noise. Um, obviously, like to me, the halls of Blargity Boop. Um, that sounds like maybe an archive of some sort. Maybe it's like a lost library.
You know, I kind of like that idea. Like
Yeah, I mean,
the Spirit Library of Washing Tongs sort of thing.
yes, exactly. We're not above borrowing, homaging things that we like. And if I remember correctly, in Avatar: The Last Airbender, there was a lost library of
Yeah,
something.
of Washington. A big owl.
Oh, I thought you were saying Washington, but like
No.
it didn't translate across the internet. I apologize. But yeah, so something like that.
I'm probably saying the name wrong anyway.
The image that I have in my head is of like, it's kind of terrible, but the Jedi archives from Episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like big and sci-fi looking, and looks like it's full of books, but they're not really books. They're like hollow discs or whatever. So at that,
So we're thinking like it'd be a story about an archive.
right, is kind of what I'm thinking.
I like that. That's you don't see many stories like that I know of.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of it.
The only thing that's really coming to mind, like similar, would be like The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. He's kind of has a lot taking place in an archive, but
Mm.
but Yeah, you could really do a lot with that to make it kind of a unique storyline. I like it. I like it. Good idea, Jason.
Thank you. So this is how we get going. Just tossing out whatever works. But
First try.
I mean, when you were first telling me about the dream and you mentioned it, like that was the first thought that popped in my head, like the first image that I got, like I said, was of the Jedi archives in episode 2, and that kind of like I really like that idea, but also I really like the idea of like sci-fi kind of archives like that, but that have been lost for centuries, kind of thing. You know, that idea of lived-in sci-fi that you don't really see as much anymore, or if you do see it, it's not done as well. You know, like what we had with the original Star Wars. So yeah, that's, like I said, that's kind of what I had in mind.
Yeah, and that's a good idea. Archive, because like you can start doing all sorts of things with that, like you're researching, trying to find some lost knowledge to help you out with the current situation, or just general trying to find secrets, or just learning. All sorts of things can come from that. And it doesn't have to be directly related to the archive so much as just using the archive as a springboard to other things.
Exactly. I would say the archive is the MacGuffin. You know, it's the idea for the title. But really, that's that. The archive is only important as a stepping stone, kind of thing, in my mind.
Or as an alternative, it could be the goal of the story, like to find it, to exploit it, destroy it, maybe.
Now that would be an interesting idea. We go from the point of view of the bad guys. So let's go with this. When you were saying like, oh, let's use the archive for something, the first thought I had was Titan AE, where there's some knowledge there that needs to be used to save a race or whatever, something like that. So what if we flip it and tell it from the point of view of bad guys, that they need to find the archive to stop the other people from getting this knowledge. Not even necessarily to destroy the archive, but just to get there first and yeah, like I said, stop that. And that ties into something that I've always really wanted to do, but I can never figure out how, which is to make the bad guy your protagonist, but also like root for the bad guy. You know what I mean?
I've seen that tried a lot. Haven't really read anything that really accomplished that to like the level that I really want to see that sort of thing.
Right.
That would be tough. Because it's hard to root for a guy who wants to destroy knowledge, and like a lot of people, it's just hardwired into you. Don't do that. That's
right.
So that's where kind of like the Library of Alexandria is. That being burned down is just, oh man, it's awful.
Exactly. So that's a place where, let's kind of shift directions in a little bit and brainstorm that. What would be a good reason for somebody to want to destroy knowledge? First thought that comes to mind for me is, so let's say there's a group of people that need to find the archive to ensure the survival of their species or clan or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're not the people that we're focused on. What we're focused on is the other people that need to get to the archive first to get this knowledge, so that the clan can't, get this knowledge. But the reason that they don't want the clan or species or whatever to get that knowledge is because that knowledge is what will allow the clan to wipe out this other group, kind of thing.
So it's like like neither side is really doing wrong. They're both trying to survive.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
But so you set it up. I'm thinking you set it up at the beginning that like, nope, these are very clearly the bad guys, like just straight out. The protagonists of the story, very clearly the bad guys. But as it goes through, you find out that, oh wait, maybe they're not actually the bad guys. They're
Maybe they just work for the bad guy.
Or maybe they work for the bad guy. That's a definite possibility as well.
Maybe our protagonists are like the goblin grunts.
That's a very definite thing. Like that could
turn into a comedy real easy.
I don't see any reason why it shouldn't. I don't think we have to stick ourselves to being, strictly drama or action necessarily. Combine it. The stories that I really like are the ones that manage to combine all of those things. Like I always use The Princess Bride as the example of a perfect movie. Because it has action, drama, adventure, comedy, romance, and it works all together.
Fencing, fighting, true love, miracles.
Exactly.
Everything you need.
And there's not enough stories like that manage to combine those things. It feels like we get too stuck in, shoehorning our stories into like these specific little boxes. Well, let them out. Let it breathe. Let it explore. Life is all these very different things, so let's tell that story.
From the perspective of some hapless goblin grunts.
Right.
Well, I'm starting to like that idea. What was that one book? Ailey Martinez. My favorite guys.
The one with the kobold is the one you're thinking of, I think.
It was the one where the bad guy was a wizard. He was in that army with a bunch of monsters. The griffins always ate the griffin handlers.
Oh, In the Company of Ogres.
That's the one. I like that one. Kind of fell apart at the end, but it was good.
Yeah. I don't know. I liked it. I didn't have a problem with the ending.
I love most of his books.
I do too.
Yeah, really something like that with, like the Dark Lord's army. Like, are his minions really bad?
Is the Dark Lord really bad? I mean, again, I just really like the idea of setting up like, yeah, no, he's definitely the bad guy, and then 3/4 of the way through, right into the beginning of Act 3, you find out, oh, turns out he's not so bad. He's actually just he's
an ends justify the means sort of guy.
Right, but somebody that you can root for.
His goals might not be bad. His methods are a bit...
But the methods of the good guys aren't that great either. So, there's no real good or bad guys. But you don't find that out until the beginning of Act 3.
Okay.
I thought.
Okay, so we have... our hapless goblins who are trying to reach the halls of Begamnon, an ancient archive of lost knowledge before the Warriors of Light, the prophesied heroes that'll save the world.
Oh my god.
That's kind of fun. I like that.
Yeah, I dig it. We've got a good foundation here.
Good foundation. So do we even need to know what specific knowledge the heroes are going for if our protagonists are just following their orders?
Yeah, that's a good question. For the beginning, I don't know that it's...
Well, then you could kind of do a turn, like you think that they're looking for one thing, but they were really looking for something else. Plan in your little Shyamalan twist right at the inception.
So what kind of a twist would you think would work for that?
It really doesn't even really need one. But yeah, the more I think about it, no, just let it be straightforward.
Yeah. To start out, while we're
Okay.
brainstorming, we'll
You
keep it.
know, twists and big reveals and messing with your head sort of things. I tend to come up with those like midway through knowing what the story is.
Mm.
So might not be the time to plan for that sort of thing. But anyway, we're just trying to find an idea. Right.
Right.
Okay.
And if I don't mind, brainstorming twists. That's totally cool with me.
And I can't think of anything.
All
That hasn't
right,
been
so
done
set up.
a million
Got,
times.
got a
The goblins
general-
were dead the whole time.
What were they? And the knowledge that they needed was how to get back to life. Ooh, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
But then it turns out that they are goblins actually working for the Dark Lord, and so the good guys, need them to not find the knowledge so that they don't come back to life as zombie goblins. Zomblins.
My head's starting to hurt.
Yeah, no. Okay.
I can't keep track of who's alive or dead anymore.
Isn't that life though? You just have no idea. All right, so we've got this idea, these goblins. Let's say a group of what?
Goblins, they could be orcs, could be trolls, could make up something new.
Sure.
If it were me, I'd want to make up something new.
Obviously, for the sake of ease, let's say,
We'll just call them goblins.
call them goblins. So we got a group of, let's say, 5 of them, and
Okay.
they've been tasked with this quest to find the lost.
Were I a DM, though, I would never send just 5 goblins. That's poor Dark Lord planning. But so we could just have like a main cast of 5, like
Sure.
one little squad in the host.
Right, so you've got like the captain, his lieutenants, his barber, and the cook, let's say,
Yeah.
as your leads, and then you've got 2,000 or whatever. I don't know, maybe that's too many.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, I kind of like better the idea of like just kind of focusing on one small part of a big dark army that's trying to thwart the prophesied heroes of light. That's kind of grabbing me. What about you? What are you thinking?
yeah, definitely. Like I said, I mean, I really like the idea of working from the point of view of the antagonist. So, making the antagonist into the protagonist.
Okay. So we kind of got general story structure. I guess what I like to do next is kind of work on world building. What kind of order do you do it? Story form, then what?
Honestly, the way that I write, we write in very different ways.
We do.
The way that I write is I get the idea. So for me, I'd be like, okay, I got these goblins. They're looking for this archive. Let's jump into the story. So chapter 1, the goblins were sitting around the campfire. The cook had just brought out his whatever kind of meal, and then we just kind of get to know the goblins. World building really comes as I'm writing. That's where I figure out, like, okay, these are goblins, so does that mean this is high fantasy? Or, like, where is this set? Are they goblins, but it's actually a sci-fi setting, which I would absolutely do. So for me, that's something that comes as I'm writing. The world building is a natural progression of putting words on paper.
Yeah,
for me.
I can't remember who came up with these terms. It might have been George R. R. Martin, but when Jason's writing, he works as a gardener. He kind of seat of his pants writing, and as George R. R. Martin, that's what George R. R. Martin is. He just writes, sees what he likes, and then what he doesn't like, he'll go back and revisit. And obviously that is a valid way of going about it. My method is what he calls being an architect, lots of planning beforehand. So me and Jason are just like on opposite ends of that spectrum. And so when we brainstorm, it works out real fun.
It really does. When we're working on Stuart's books, it really gets more like really in depth and is really enjoyable for me because I get to get out of my natural, like out of my comfort zone. And then when we brainstorm my stuff, I imagine it's kind of the same thing for you. Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, because I just want to just plan it, but then I just try to remember that's not how Jason writes. Just let him fly at it. Just throw little ideas at his way to.
See, and it's great too because, like, for me, really, as I'm writing, like I say, I kind of explore, the landscape of my mind, not to get too stonerish about it, but
That's perfect.
Plot developments happen because as I'm writing, I'm like, oh, Jesus, this is a great idea. And then I write a couple of chapters, and I'm like, damn, that was a terrible idea. Let's go back. There's this one that I really like, so we're going to expand on that instead. And I feel like when I try to sit down and plan everything out, invariably, and I'm actually dealing with this with the book I'm working on right now, I have it planned out beat for beat. I mean, I've got an outline that's you'd probably be so proud of, Stuart. But as I'm writing, I start veering off, and I'm like, oh wait, no, this is not at all like what I've got on the outline. Let's try and bring it back. But really, trying to bring it back, that kind of like, I don't like the way the story's going now. So no, I'm not going to bring it back. Let's just go off this way. So then I'll try outlining off this direction, and then as soon as I get that outline done, I start writing. And then I'm veering off, in a completely different direction. So, and again, that's something that I think is really great with us being able to talk about things because we do have such different styles.
What book is that?
Oakwood.
Oakwood. Okay,
Yeah.
Right. I've seen this outline.
Yeah, and I do like the outline that I have. It's a good story. It's a solid story. But again, as I'm writing, I've got it planned out, like, okay, my characters are going to do this. And then I'm writing them, and they're like, you know what, we could do that, but also there's this thing over here. Maybe we should do that instead. And I'm like, damn, that's a really good idea. Let's do that.
Well, yeah, that's, and, even I do that sometimes because, plan all you want, it doesn't always work.
The best laid plans of writers fail is how that finishes.
They always fail.
Yeah, so bringing it back to the whole of Brannigan.
Okay, so
go ahead.
Since who's writing this anyway?
Here's the thing. I ideally, and I don't know how this would work, would like to write it together, actually. Have a Terry Pratchett, Neil Gaiman kind of thing going on.
Well, that could be fun. We haven't ever tried any. Well, we planned it before with Oakwood. You were going to do like half with Maggie, and I was going to do half with my two characters, Zane and Rex. But
yeah.
We just didn't.
Well, we had two very fleshed out stories that, while yes, they would absolutely work together, was better to explore separately.
Yeah.
This particular instance.
And one day I will. I will one day.
That's the
It was
dream.
fun to write. One day.
So I think since I've talked about, I can definitely work off of an outline. I may veer off of it. I think that's a place to start.
And I'm not afraid of going a little seat of my pants writing. Cassie's Longest Haul, that short story I did. I didn't plan that one at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
I think that was one of the most fun things I've ever done writing. I really enjoyed writing that one.
See, I tell you, you start out, you've got the base idea, and then it just grows. And you're very right. It's like a garden. Except that instead of being like, okay, here's my tomato plants and here's my carrot plant, and here's the whatever else. You just kind of put all the seeds together into a bag, mix them up, reach in, and just throw it.
But I would like to plow the field first, if that's a stupid metaphor.
No, that's actually a really good method, because what you got to do is you got to plow the field so that you don't just have plants anywhere. You do have them in specific lines, in there's a word for that, but I'm not a farmer, so I don't know. In your rows. But then that's where you get the kind of hodgepodge of different plants. And the great thing about that, too, is instead of sitting down and digging out a little hole, and then you put your seed in, and you put it over, and you water it, so you know exactly what's coming out there. You just grab a handful, and you throw it on the dirt, and whatever takes, whatever wins, basically, kind of survival of the fittest thing, whichever plant manages to take root first.
Less a farmer and more an uncaring god at this point.
Is it, though, with plants? Call it an uncaring
Well, not
god?
completely uncaring, but you want something to come out.
So anyways, I think...
I'd like to do a little
broad outline, and then kind of, work in from that.
Okay.
Let's get our rows figured out.
Okay, world building.
Go ahead.
Sci-fi, fantasy, something weird like steampunk, post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, let's do them all. Let's combine it all together. I do like the idea of taking high fantasy and mixing it with sci-fi, but like being very deliberate in like, okay, yes, this is a sci-fi world, but these are like actual goblins and orcs and elves and dark elves and all that kind of.
I tried that before. That's how I got sucked into Alcivan.
Sure. Right, and for Alcivan, I think that you absolutely made the right choice in coming up with your own species. And who knows? Maybe this will turn into an Alcivan book, because Lord knows we don't have enough of those planned out. So
go to hell, Jason.
Between the two of us, we got how many? 15? 43?
97. Too
We'll
many
be right till we die.
I'm okay with that.
I am too. I have no problem with it. As long as we finish the main story, we don't end ourselves in a George R. R. Martin situation where people are literally asking us, do you think you'll finish before you die? Because that's a terrible question.
That seems so mean.
He's legitimately had people ask him. I don't know if you've seen, like, he's given interviews where I've never actually seen somebody ask him the question, but he's given interviews where he's like, yeah, people come up to me and they're like, hey, do you worry about that you're maybe not going to be able to finish before you die? And he, like, I think there was one specific interview where he was like, I have one thing to say to the people that ask me that question. Fuck you. Which is a good answer.
Good answer. It's a legitimate answer.
Very, very legitimate. Okay, so world building.
World building.
So if you're cool with it, I say, yeah, let's go with a sci-fi setting with high fantasy creatures. Let's start out and see where it takes us.
Now, let's say there's a Kinsey scale here. How fantasy and how sci-fi are we talking? Like, are they flying around in spaceships, or are they on like a fantasy world where an alien spaceship crashed and they use ray guns on each other instead of swords?
It's a good question. I like the idea of keeping it, for lack of a better term, terrestrial, like on one world.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I don't see any reason that these goblins didn't come to this world on a spaceship. I think that's a totally legit thing. Like, the Overlord and the system over is like, hey, here's this little uncharted planet that supposedly this is where the archives are, so get to getting. And we could even start out.
So they're not just goblins; they're alien invader goblins.
Well, sure. I mean, I kind of figure, sort of
little green men from Mars. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. But the idea of like goblins are from a different planet than elves, then are a different planet from humans. You know, like one species per planet kind of thing. But then there's the galactic kind of community where they all mix. Um, and then it's even totally possible to have like half elves, half orcs.
Crazy thought here. Seeing as it's a high fantasy type thing, are we going to be like constrained by real world physics? Like, is it going to be a star with planets revolving around it, or can it be like ancient mythologies, like the Discworld? It's on a turtle flying through space.
I mean, I could see it going either way. I don't have a preference, to be honest. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it would be really out of my comfort zone going fantastical in that regard, which might be a good thing. Does it matter? I don't think.
To start out, probably not. It's probably something that will come up at some point, but I think for now, probably good to just kind of.
I am not nearly high enough to come up with a crazy fantastical cosmology.
Exactly. That's far too sober for it.
Yeah. So, need at least a few shots of whiskey.
At the very least. And I'm teetotaling right now, so it just doesn't even work. So. Well, not really.
Okay, so world building, we want high fantasy with moderate sci-fi trappings.
I would say a moderate amount of each.
Okay.
Let's say
we want wizards, right?
Sure.
Wizards and battle mechs and giant robots to make the Japanese happy.
Gotta get those international markets. That's what it's all about.
Yes, plan from the beginning.
I would even think, like, if we wanted to, and this might be, what's the word I want? Bringing things too narrow, but we could even say, like, okay, wizards are only, elves. Can only be wizards because that's just part of their biology, is that they're able to cast these spells. And kind of like orcs can only be fighters, or I don't know. Maybe that's bringing it too narrow, but that's a thought.
Maybe narrows. Doesn't really allow you a lot of freedom though when you're writing.
Yeah, it's just
there's like some decisions like I've made with the Alcivan books is like I've put some rules that I have since regretted because then that kind of really closed me off from other options.
Mm.
But sometimes a lot of the times the limitations of a story can be more interesting than what they can actually do.
Sure.
But that's kind of tough to do at times. But,
yeah.
So, sci-fi. Like what do we want to do to like show that it's a science fiction story? Like, are these goblins? Do they have bows and arrows, or do we want to give them laser rifles?
What about laser bow and arrow? Like,
why not? Not?
What's the thing that Chewbacca uses?
The bowcaster.
That's the one. Stuff like that. That like.
Okay.
Would be able to kind of again meet in the middle of this high fantasy and sci-fi. Because, like I said, I mean, if we're gonna hit it on a Kinsey scale, 1 to 10, I'd say let's hit a 5 of each.
Okay.
Full 10 out of the both of them.
Instead of swords, they have lightsabers. I don't know.
Maybe a bit far. Or
it might be funny, like main character Goblin, he gets his lightsaber and he goes, "This is just amazing. It's an elegant weapon from a more civilized age." What are you kidding? We mass-produced those. There's a billion of them. You can buy them for a nickel.
Yeah, totally. That, like, yeah, little jokes like that. Again, little homages to the things
Little homages.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe
I'm not. I don't like lightsabers.
we could.
That's.
We're gonna have somebody be like, "Oh, what is this?"
I'm a Star Wars purist. Lightsabers stay in Star Wars. No one else deserves them.
Although maybe we could have a little thing where it's like, "Oh man, what is this? It's like a saber made of light. What is that?" No, you idiot! It's a laser sword. Come on, quick.
What is this? A light sword? A photon saber?
Okay.
These are bad ideas.
They are, but I love it. This is what we're all about here.
I'm worried we're just making something awful.
Maybe we are, and you know what? It's okay.
But we'll have fun doing it.
Because here's the thing: if we're gonna go back to the gardening metaphor, you gotta throw out all the shit first in order for the good stuff to.
That's very true.
Bam. Good night.
Much better metaphor than the plowing thing.
Is it though? Is it
Yes.
though? Nope, not gonna go there. Gotta keep this PG. My mom might watch this. Okay, so let's go specific world building. Let's talk about this world that the goblins have landed on, where the archive.
Okay. Should it be much like Earth, or can it have some sort of fantastical thing about it, like floating mountains, which has been done to death now, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, ground it a little bit in reality, but then throw in that fantastical element. Yeah, floating mountains. James Cameron kind of fucked that up for everybody. Floating tree. Maybe the maybe the oceans are like in the air, like not floating oceans. But I don't know. I'm just
No, that's not a bad idea. It kind of made me start thinking kind of like an Earthsea type thing, where the planet's an archipelago. Like all the land masses are tiny islands.
Yeah, or even.
And it's a shallow ocean, like you can walk across the ocean if you wanted to.
And we call it the Ocean Walker. No, we don't. We don't call
it. We won't do that.
It's the halls of Bryan Cranston. We've already decided. So. Yeah. As we're talking, I'm sure we'll probably figure out like what the fantastical thing could be, and I think probably the Lost Archive should be tied up in the fantastical element, whatever we decide it is, and that could be a fun little twist as well. We don't at first say what the weird thing is. The goblins know what the weird thing about the planet is, but we don't. The reader doesn't. So as far as we know, they're just like, oh, we landed on this planet. We got to march through this forest. Until we.
Oh, Jason. Okay, I'm starting to get an idea.
Okay.
Help me with this one, because it's pretty half-formed and idiotic right now.
As they all.
As they all are. Okay, so you got this archive on the planet, and tie something fantastical to the archive about the planet. So how about, no, just go with me on this. Everything that's written in the archive manifests on the planet somewhere.
Okay. There's potential there. Can you give me an example of?
No. No, I'll try. Like, say there's like a record of an old battle going on, like. With the goblins being primitive and stupid, they would perceive it as like, look, every night ghosts like just start fucking things up over there. But it's like just holograms going on.
Yeah,
no. It kind of makes me think like, us as the reader would recognize elements as sci-fi elements, but the goblins interpret it as ghosts and magic. And
I think you hit it. I think that's how we do it. That's how we combine the sci-fi and the fantasy. We started out as a kind of high fantasy. We don't say that. We just say the goblins get off their ship. Don't specify that it's a spaceship necessarily.
They're steel dragon.
Yeah. Their chariot through the stars. No, but then I actually really dig that idea.
Yeah.
So
the archive manifests these things, historical battles play out with holograms all over the planet, and the goblins think ghosts are just messing with their heads, and holograms are everywhere, so they think it's a haunted planet. But I'm trying to think of what other ways could you manifest an archive's contents physically?
I had a thought, actually, and kind of going a little Alan Moore here. But so the planet itself is the archive. The idea is that, no, it's this building, and we could still have the halls be like
the control room.
Right, exactly. But when you go to different parts of the planet, that's where the different parts of the archive, so you've got there's the forest where it talks about this great battle that raged, and you've got another one where it talks about the period of peace when, this certain king or ruling body, managed to keep the peace for so long, and you have the hologram of a court proceeding kind of thing, like a king's court, not judge court, not Judge Reinhold. But yeah, so different parts of the planet or the different parts of the archive, and then you could even have where we're in the ocean. This is where a naval battle happened, or this is where this particular part of whatever was discovered.
So the giant monsters are actually just a zoological database. Yeah.
And so, we could even go as far as the monsters are real. They're not holograms.
Because it's also the observer keeps his menagerie there.
Yeah. It's kind of a zoo kind of thing. I don't know.
So I'm starting to lean now towards it's it's an actual planet in a physical galaxy like we know. So real-world physics are involved, but it's like some highly advanced alien species made this super planet that's the repository of all their knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that might be enough world building. So what I would do then is make characters to fit in the world.
Okay.
Who's our MC? I've never said that out loud before.
Well, and then I'm like, who's dropping those mad beats? Is what I start thinking.
It's Gobbo the Goblin. He's here to say.
Oh my! like that Batman video I sent you.
Yeah.
My name
is Bane.
That was really good. I really like that. All right, so if we're gonna have the goblins as our main characters, like I said, I think we should have a cast of 5 or so main goblins that are always gonna.
Now, just me, I'd say we should just stick in the viewpoint of one goblin. He's our eyes and ears through the whole thing.
Okay, so then the question is, do we have that be the leader of the goblins, or
leaders aren't that fun.
Right, that's kind of what I was thinking. So maybe the second in command, or possibly even why not the cook?
Why not the cook? Or we could do it might be fun to do a say not a goblin, but a hobgoblin or something who's supposed to keep these little rats under control.
So like the hired muscle who is not necessarily there as a part of the um, excursion, but is there to keep everybody in line to kind of
Yeah,
keep things.
or maybe just like in your D&D game that you've been running, like Clark the Bugbear, who's just in charge of this small group of goblins in the larger army.
Would that not be then going from the viewpoint of a leader?
Yeah, it would be. It would be. I'm just kind of arguing with myself.
Well, now here's where that could be interesting and enjoyable though is yes, it's the leader, but if it's let's say a bugbear, a hobgoblin, a whatever that's not a goblin, trying to lead this group of goblins, that you definitely get some fun there. There'd be clashing, and probably even like the head goblin would be pissed off that he's not the one that's in charge, that he hasn't been trusted with this.
Like he's been demoted. He has to. He's been like punished by leading a goblin group.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that could make a fun dynamic where, let's say, it's a hobgoblin is like upset because he's being punished by having to lead these goblins, but then also you've got the actual goblin commander who's like, I don't need this hobgoblin here telling me how to lead my guys. Like, just let me do my thing. So there's like a fun dynamic. I would think a fun dynamic there between them.
Yeah, but the way you do things, you end up just pooping in the corners.
Sure.
And also, I want to just apologize to anyone who may or may not be listening who's not familiar with Dungeons and Dragons monsters.
But if you're not familiar with them, get familiar with them.
Yes.
D&D 5.
Why are you watching?
That's also a really good question. The D&D 5 PDFs are free online. Look them up, read them up, familiarize yourself. Do we want to say a hobgoblin?
So that's one possibility, like a leader of the goblins. The other thing I would be interested in seeing would be like just the lowest of the low in the group, like the new dumbass that they just hired, just popped out of his egg or whatever the heck goblins pop out of. Made myself sad.
By thinking about goblin eggs. I see potential there.
It's late, Jason. It's late.
Yeah, to be fair, because nobody's gonna see this until later. It's 1:20 in the morning, so give us some leeway. But this is when we do our best work.
The only time I'm really active. Going with pros and cons of either. Like if you're going with the lowest goblin grunt in the group, good alliteration. It would be more believable if he sees all these things as like crazy magic flying his way, as with a leader, he would probably be expected to know that's no ghost, you dummies. That's a whatever device.
The whatever machine.
Yeah.
That
will be called.
That is a very good point, and I think that you're right there.
But then it might also be like really funny if it is the leader and he almost knows what things are. These aren't really ghosts; they're from a machine that pops out ghosts.
He has just enough knowledge to be dangerous.
Yeah.
No, legitimately, I can see that. Like, oh, these are things that we don't need to worry about. They're not real. And then, oh shit, half of my group just got eaten by this giant creature that I thought was a hologram, but it turns out is real.
But then that could be funny, but that would also be funny if that character existed outside of the viewpoint of the story and is like kind of like a mini antagonist, they got their little grunt guy. He's got to be dealing with this almost idiot commander of his, who keeps getting the other goblins killed.
Okay, so we can tie that into possibly have a little side story happening within the story. Let's say we've got our hobgoblin leader who views these goblins as totally expendable, and so who cares? But then, as the story goes on, and more of the goblins are eaten or killed by whatever, then they basically start a mutiny against the hobgoblin or whatever. So that could even be the way that our antagonists become our protagonists, possibly.
Right, they're fighting the oppression of the Dark Lord in their own way, and they become the warriors of light. It was about the goblins. Goblins saved the galaxy, Jason.
Wouldn't that be crazy though? Like that. I mean, that's a story I'd read. Like,
I said that as a joke, but I'm starting to like it.
I mean, legitimately, why shouldn't the goblins be, the good guys? I mean, that's definitely something that I've never seen before. You wouldn't expect, and I think could be a lot of fun.
Who says goblins are evil? They get a bad rap. They were just conquered first. They were the Dark Lord's first victims, Jason.
That's exactly right. People don't realize that the first nation, that the Nazis conquered was their own. That's exactly what we'd be going with here.
There you go. No, I kind of like that idea. The goblins end up being the heroes.
Yeah. So okay. So now this is why I like doing this, because we've completely changed tracks on what we're doing.
We did.
But in a good way.
Flip to Yui. Now we're going up.
Okay, so we've got the group is tasked with finding the halls of whatever it is,
Gargamel,
Birdie Boo, and
Bippity Boppity.
They of bedknobs and broomsticks. They land on the planet and have to traverse through. They can't just land at the halls. They have to traverse through because
then you don't have a story.
Yes, exactly. There's
world, you can just say, we have no idea where, sensors can't penetrate the whatever interference, too many gamma rays in this stellar alignment, whatever. Gobbledygook it up, and so just say this squad of goblins is one of hundreds that's combing the planet looking for the halls.
There you go.
So might come across other groups that have been eaten or have fallen apart through various dangers of the thing. Oh yeah, and how dangerous should this planet be?
I would
it's a death trap, or
I'd say fair to Midland.
Or should it just be dangerous because the goblins are so prone to death?
I think a little bit of both, probably.
A little bit of both. Okay, so if we were your standard party of main characters, the elf, the human, the dwarf, they would go, be careful, stay inside the dotted lines, and you should be fine. Don't go drink in the water. Basic rules, you'll be fine. But these goblins, they're kind of dumb, so they see something that says "do not touch." They say, "Ooh, let's eat it."
They say, "Oh, do not touch." That clearly means that this is something that needs to be touched, and then they press it, and half of them get flattened by the giant boulder that rolls.
Don't tell me what to do.
But also, that could be a fun thing where, let's say it's the hobgoblin is the one that's like, don't touch this. What? Don't they know who I am? I'm whatever. And then the goblin I'm like, hey, that's maybe a bad idea. And he's like, whatever, I'm going to do it. And he presses the thing, and then half the
You know,
goblins.
I think you had touched upon something that I would really like. Like, the goblins aren't smart. They don't know about holograms or spaceships or hyperspace or what have you. But they're not morons. Like, maybe the death comes from their supposed smarter leaders, while they're kind of like going, I don't think that's a good idea, boss. Do it anyway. Okay. I'm dead now. Thanks. Thanks, bastard.
Thank you from the afterlife. Double fingers as we're going. Yeah, I think that's probably.
And so, like, maybe they're not even that dumb. They're just, like, being purposefully held down. Our poor heroic goblins.
So
the Lord wants them primitive, but they would be higher if they weren't being squashed down. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what I was going to say. They are not allowed to. What do I want to say? Flourish.
Advance. They're not allowed to advance or flourish. They're being artificially held back in a primitive state.
Right. So then they come up.
Noble goblin.
So that, for an example, then they come up on this, particular pedestal, and written on there is.
And maybe our main character is like coming up with like a good idea on how to proceed, and the commander comes up. That takes too long. Gobbo, touch it.
And then there are goblin casualties, and that's part of what gets the spirit of revolution. Rolling throughout these.
So maybe our MC here is kind of like a goblin anarchist. He wants to just starts not liking how his people are being treated, and
I think it's important though, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think it's a good idea if the MC is not somebody that comes into the story already having these thoughts. It's that it's like the first time something happens and he's like, well, that could have been easily avoided, but I don't know. And then it happens again and he's like, okay, no, this is like some bad shit that's happening here. And then it happens a third time and he's like, all right, brother goblins, we gotta take this sucker down.
Okay, so maybe our main character goblin is pretty smart.
I wouldn't even necessarily say he has to be very smart. I mean,
not very smart, but just he questions things.
Right.
Whereas, like, the goblin mindset is generally going to be like, don't question, do what you're told, don't question.
That would even be a place where if they come across another group of goblins, where they're all camping together in one big group this night. Our characters and then this other group, and our MC is talking to the other goblins, and he's like, hey, so I mean, is your leader kind of an idiot too? Like, this guy's been fucking stuff up for us since the beginning. And the other goblins are like, well, it's been a little bit weird, but he knows best because he's a higher creature than us. Again, it's just been so ingrained in them. And he's like, well, yeah, but like, isn't this kind of terrible? Like, we are dying here. So many of us are dying needlessly. This is really pointless. And the other goblins are like, hey, maybe don't stir the pot so much. Like, let's keep it on the DL. So then the groups go their separate ways, and he just can't get it out of his mind, though. Like, no, this is really, there are goblins dying here that don't need to. We need to do something about this. So then you can kind of show that this guy is a little bit different, but also that, like, have it in there where it's not so unusual. It's unusual that he wants to act on it. Does that make sense? Like,
that makes sense, and I think that's a very solid character arc in general.
Right.
So, really, I think we would have enough to start, like doing our own little treatments on it, and then comparing notes later on. What do you think? Anything else you think needs addressing?
Ideally, at this point we would probably want to come up with an ending, but to be honest, I have no idea where it would go. So maybe we
like
could say
generally, I like to do an ending first. I
two.
like to come up with the ending first thing, but that's kind of not how it worked out this time.
See, and that's I very rarely come up with my endings. That's usually, you know, I've
So
got.
why don't we just quick do that? What we kind of did, the ending is our goblin is the prophesied hero of light. Him and his group, like we could throw out.
Oh, uh-oh. May have lost him. We were warned that this might be a thing. So Stuart, I don't know if you can still hear me, but you've frozen up a little bit. So I'm gonna pop on Facebook here and see if Stuart is.
I'm back. I'm back. Am I back?
You're back. Yay! I was a little.
What the heck happened? I'm sorry. That was probably
That's right.
on my end.
On my end, what I saw was that you just froze, and so I was kind of concerned that your internet cut out. But
yeah, my internet popped out for a second. What was I saying?
You're talking about the.
We have our ending. It's our goblin friend and his comrades are the heroes. But like, what
I will say.
Okay.
One thing. Sorry, one thing for me. I'm totally. They're the heroes, but I don't like the idea that they're prophesied. I want to.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I'm not married to that.
It's just, I mean, what story do you get nowadays where it's not the prophesied hero and all that bullshit? So I think
Right.
I think it's better if it's, I mean, Luke Skywalker wasn't prophesied to be the one to, bring down the Empire. It was just he happened to be a farm boy. If we're going with just the first Star Wars, he was just some kid on this planet that it was like, hey, why don't you go and take care of this shit for us? That's the kind of thing that I like. Oh, now I think. Oh no, you're still there.
I'm pushing buttons when I shouldn't. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You became Korra for a second, and I was very concerned.
I can do it again.
Oh god. But yeah,
I love that picture.
It is a really good picture. Let me pull it up here. It's a good picture. Anyways, so yeah, just I would even say like not prophesied. It's just I think the way that we end it is they end up getting rid of the hobgoblin in whatever way. They work it out to where, oh, we're going to trigger this trap because you're an idiot. You're going to be the one that's going to suffer the consequences of it. So the hobgoblin is out, and then they're the ones that find the archive, the halls. So that's how they're the heroes.
Maybe we could have a turn there, like they find a secret about their own race, like how they used to be, like in a higher state of civilization than they are now.
Maybe, and this might be getting a little too into it, but maybe like it's the goblins used to be in that higher station. But then the hobgoblins, like several years ago, hundreds of years ago, kind of usurped that a little bit, and so that's our tie into like, oh, this hobgoblin leader is really ill-equipped for this position because he doesn't really earn it. It was just
they were artificially raised up because the Dark Lord just liked them better, while the goblins were pushed down.
Yeah, or just because it was like the hobgoblins ran a really good smear campaign against the goblins, like, starting oh man, those goblins are some dirty little bastards over there. Mm-hmm. Are we sure that we want them to be our military commanders, kind of thing? But nobody knows it. Nobody remembers this anymore because it's hundreds of years ago or whatever. And so then the goblins could find out, like, oh hey, look at that, we used to be not the ones in charge, but we were definitely, second or third tier, versus now we're the, the footstools.
Yeah. Okay, so like more like narrative ending wise, like what do we what do we fade to black on?
To be honest, I like the idea of fading to black on like, oh, we found the halls of brick and mortar. Like that's the end. We didn't need the hobgoblin to be able to do this. We did it on our own. Good job, guys. And that's the ending. That's our MacGuffin. So when they find the MacGuffin, that's the ending. We've already had the character arc of who our MC going from this lowly status to
Okay, so like what does this like
overthrowing
prove?
basically.
What does this prove then about our main character? Like what does this do for him?
Validation, I would think. Like that would be, that his thoughts of revolution are not ill-conceived, are not out of the ordinary. Maybe not out of the ordinary, but just validation of like, yeah, goblins are not just the chum of our civilization.
Okay. So it doesn't even have to prove anything in the greater scheme of things, it just proves it to him.
Right, and that brings into another thing that I really like is making it a personal story. While yes, there are these grand things happening, this is a very personal story. There doesn't need to be galaxy-defining things that happen.
Yeah, he doesn't have to save the galaxy. He just gets to prove to himself Mama was wrong about him.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's what our real story is, because again, the halls are the MacGuffin. They're not important to the story. They're important to get the story going,
Okay.
kind of thing.
All right. Okay, so
My idea.
I think we got pretty much all we need then.
Awesome. So I think where we go from here is we take a week or so. We'll each kind of write up our little treatments, outline, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And then we can meet back in a week for. Obviously, you and I will talk throughout the week, and if we want to talk about this, that's great.
Here's what I think we should do. I think we should both just write a quick 2,000-word treatment, maybe just a scene or whatever. Just kind of what we normally do when we just want to flesh out an idea. Then we'll read each other's stuff and then talk about it some more. See what's working. We'll see what's not working.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. And then we'll meet back here, like I said, in a week, maybe two, however long it takes.
A week or two, whenever we feel like it.
Whenever we get time. I do want to make this a regular thing, though, doing the Mr. Moonshine. I'm calling this a vlogcast. Remember, tell your friends. Coined right
tell
here.
Your friends.
Vlogcast.
This first series will be the halls of Gorgonzola, and then we'll move on to other things as we see fit. But I would like to see by the end of the series we get an actual, at the very least, a little short story finished.
Yeah, I think, with the story we've got here, I don't think we have a novel. I don't think we even have a novella. I think we have a short story.
Right.
That, we very definitely can write together.
I'm thinking 25,000 words.
See, and I don't even like to put limits or on it.
I don't want to go higher than that, is what I'm saying.
Sure, just a quick little short story. Hit on these things that we've talked about. And then, over the course of the next several weeks, get it put together, get it fleshed out, get it written, and then publish it on the website and move on to the next thing.
All right, so that's us. That's Mr. Moonshine. That's our process for talking out our ideas. Kind of got a little glimpse at how we each do things. And we'll probably dive in more into that as we go on.
Right. And I think, too, we'll probably, I mean, depending on how you feel about it, and we can talk about this a little more, look at some of our personal projects that we're working on as well.
Also fun.
I wouldn't at all mind talking about Oakwood. I don't know how you feel about talking about Alcivan, but, yeah, given copyright issues and what have you. But, yeah, I think that would be...
I like tooting my horn. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And all it takes, I mean, we do have the digital files to prove for copyright purposes. So, plus, how many people are going to really watch this? Let's be honest. 5? I'll be happy with 5.
I don't even think my wife will. She was listening into the whole thing recording.
Well, see, so she doesn't need to watch it because
she doesn't need to.
She lived it.
She lived it.
Firsthand. So, anyways, yeah, thanks for watching if you did. And if you have any ideas, anything that jumped out at you, shoot it into the comments below. Levi already left a comment. Ignore it. It doesn't matter. That's not even a thing.
What does Levi want? What would Levi want in the story?
No. Levi, we don't ask. I don't think we should ask that question. We're gonna get answers we don't want.
Maybe you don't want.
Maybe we do want them. I don't know. But yeah, no.
We have an untapped gold mine in the ideas of Levi, and I don't want to see that go to waste.
You say gold mine, I say crap farm. But tomato, I guess. But yeah, feel free to leave us comments.
Don't be silly, Jason. It's pronounced tomato.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, feel free to leave us comments if you have any that you'd like to leave. Make sure you check out the Jason and Levi show. We're going to be doing one either tomorrow or Friday. We're going to be watching Guardians of the Galaxy, so we'll be doing our wrap-up of that. So yeah,
I'm a little worried it's being overhyped to me, Jason. Everybody's saying it's the greatest thing ever, and they said it's the best Marvel movie ever, and that just scares me.
And
Are they overhyping it?
But it is trending at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited and scared at the same time.
I know, it's pretty daunting. So
let's wrap up. Let's wrap up. We need to get out.
Yeah, I'll make sure to get the link put up for that when we're doing that wrap up. If you like the video, share it with your friends. We're definitely, any ideas that people have, we're all about that. So yeah, so I think that's us. We're Mr. Moonshine. For Stuart, I'm Jason, and we'll see you later.